Hey you, human. Are you curious about the life and biological functions around us? Almost everything around is full of life. Everything in the big picture is connected in some way. But how? We must first be able to understand the smaller details and processes. Let's start with a simple plant. Zooming in far enough, we can see the plant cells of the plant. The structure of the plant cell consists of a cell wall made of cellulose, causing it to be box-like in shape to maximize space. The organelles of the plant include the nucleus, cytoplasm, smooth and rough endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, vacuole, ribosomes, mitochondria, and the chloroplast. Each of these parts of the cell is essential to the plant's survival. One of these, the chloroplast, is full of chlorophyll, which makes the plant green. Within the chloroplast is where photosynthesis takes place. Photosynthesis is a process where the cell takes in sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water to produce food and the air we breathe. Photosynthesis can be divided into two processes, the light-independent and the light-dependent part. The light-dependent process is the first phase of photosynthesis and the most recognizable process. The chlorophyll takes in light and water and produces ATP, NADPH, and O2. The second part of photosynthesis, also known as the light-independent or the Calvin cycle, takes in CO2 and uses the products of the light-dependent reaction. It uses the ATP and the NADPH to produce simple sugar, whereas the byproducts of NADP+, ADP, and P+, are used back into the light-dependent reaction. The sugar is then stored as food for the plant, waiting to be converted into energy.
Sugar is energy?
Well, sugar is converted into energy, using a process called...
Whoa, wait. If sugar isn't the energy for the plant, then where does it come from? The mitochondria?
Let's try to understand what energy is before we can continue through cellular respiration. What you are seeing now is ATP on a molecular scale. ATP is where energy is stored and is made up of three main components. The pentagon you see is a sugar, ribose. On top, you would usually see an O, which stands for the oxygen molecule. The larger rectangular shape is the adenosine base, which is the A in ATP.
Then what does the TP stand for in ATP?
I'm getting there. Last you see is the three phosphate groups on the right side of the molecule. This is where the energy is stored and used. The three phosphates are also part of the name, adenosine triphosphate. The bond between the phosphate that is farthest from the sugar base snaps. The broken bond then generates a little bit of heat, thus creating energy. This process is happening everywhere, in every cell, to power the plant. The same process of breaking the bond happens in your body too. Pretty cool, huh? Once the ATP is used, it produces ADP and one extra phosphate. This is seen within the side products of the Calvin cycle. Do you understand what energy is now?
Yeah, I think it kind of makes sense. What was the next part now? Cellular reception?
Close. Cellular respiration is the next process that is crucial to the survival of all living things. You already know part of the process. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Cellular respiration takes place within the mitochondria.
What's cellular respiration? And how does it convert sugar into energy?
Let's look into the mitochondria now. Cellular respiration can be broken down into different processes similar to photosynthesis. Glycolysis is the first step, which is also part of the anaerobic respiration because it doesn't need oxygen to occur. Glycolysis also doesn't occur in the mitochondria and instead the cytoplasm. In glycolysis, the sugar is broken down into pyruvate, which is then brought into the mitochondria. 2 ATP is developed from this process. The next step is a Krebs cycle, also known as the citric acid cycle. This cycle doesn't need oxygen to create ATP, making it a part of anaerobic respiration. It also produces 2 ATP and a CO2 as a byproduct. The last step is the electron transport chain, also known as the ETC. It requires O2 to produce 32 ATP molecules, meaning it's a part of aerobic respiration. The ETC, or aerobic respiration, is the most efficient method of producing ATP. In total, through cellular respiration, 36 ATP is produced, ready to be used by the plant as energy. For organisms that don't have a mitochondria and other organelles, they only undergo anaerobic respiration. and create much less ATP than aerobic respiration.
That's a lot to take in. It's pretty cool, though, to see how the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, but don't forget that ATP is what's being produced by the mitochondria. Without ATP, the plant here would die. In fact, if this plant dies, organisms that eat the plant will starve to death. This is because plants are the main producers and are at the bottom of the food web.
Well, technically, the sun is at the bottom of the food web.
You're vegan, aren't you?
Yeah?
You're alive, aren't you?
No. Yeah? Where are we going with this?
Then you get your energy from the plants you eat. The glucose produced by the plants end up in your body, which is used to make ATP.
Okay, how so?
Through the digestive system, of course.
Wait, how does that relate to me being vegan and the food chain?
Hold on, I'll get there. Let's say you ate the plant, plucked off clean from the ground. The plant first gets processed in your mouth by chewing. By chewing, you break down the food into smaller pieces, making it easier to digest by increasing its surface area. While also chewing, your mouth releases saliva containing enzymes that start the breakdown of carbohydrates, also known as sugar.
Oh, vegan, because I'm eating the plant.
Once you're done chewing, the food then gets swallowed. The food is pushed down by the esophagus into the stomach. Since the food is in small pieces, the gastric acid can easily break down the food into even smaller pieces. This is to help with the absorption of minerals and vitamins. Since the stomach is also lined with mucus, the acid doesn't dissolve the organ and harm the body. The food is then passed down into the small intestine.
Quick question. Isn't stomach acid very acidic?
Yes, that's correct.
If the food is passed down into the small intestine, wouldn't the small intestine start dissolving because it doesn't have a protective mucus like the stomach?
Good question. The body produces bicarbonate that neutralizes the pH of the chyme, which is a substance that exits the stomach.
Pretty cool.
Once the chyme enters the small intestine, proteins, fatty acids, sugars, vitamins, and minerals are absorbed into the blood and distributed in the body. After that, it enters the large intestine, which absorbs more minerals, vitamins, and water. Anything undigested is then left through the anus.
You say all those things enter the blood. Where does it go from there?
Well, we can look at the circulatory system next. Blood is the main part of the circulatory system, and its main goal is to transport oxygen throughout your body and your organs. You may recall that for cells to make ATP through cellular respiration, it needs oxygen to create enough of it.
Didn't you say that cells can still make ATP through anaerobic respiration? Why don't our bodies do that if we don't get enough oxygen?
They do go through anaerobic respiration. Imagine that you're exercising, and you start to breathe more to get more oxygen into your body. Your heart also pumps faster to get more oxygen to your cells, as you're using a lot more ATP. When not enough oxygen is transported to your cells, it starts trying to make ATP by anaerobic respiration instead. However, it cannot survive for a long time only using ATP from anaerobic respiration. Remember how it only produces 4 ATP in total? Some of the cells die, leaving you feeling sore after exercising.
Oh, no wonder why my limbs feel like spaghetti after running a 5K.
Right. Back to blood. Your blood consists of different cells with different purposes. The main part is the red blood cells, which are the cells that carry oxygen throughout your body. They are also generated from the bone marrow inside your bones. The white blood cell is part of the immune system and helps fight off diseases and pathogens. Blood is also made up of plasma, which is a fluid-like substance where nutrients are able to flow through. As stated before, the heart is vital as it pumps blood throughout the body. The right upper chamber is where the deoxygenated blood enters, where it is then squeezed into the lower chamber to be transported to the lungs. Once the deoxygenated blood becomes reoxygenated, the blood travels back to the heart through the upper left chamber. It is then pumped to the lower chamber, ready to be carried throughout the body through the arteries and blood vessels.
Wow, I didn't know that about the heart. Now I see why it's so important to take care of it.
Very. Many people get sick with heart diseases that can lead to death, such as a heart attack. It's important to stay healthy and to know what problems run through your family that could affect you.
Yikes. Thank goodness I'm vegan. I don't want to die from heart disease, like my dad. And his dad.
Well, you don't have to worry about an increased chance of heart disease, thanks to your veganism. Oh look, a bear!
I'm dying. Please, someone help me, please. Oh no, I'm dead. Bleh.
This brings us to the next part of our lessons, the food chain. The food chain looks like something like we just witnessed. Well, what I and the viewer witnessed, at least. As mentioned earlier, the plants are the producers, as they take in energy from sunlight and turn it into glucose. Next are the primary consumers, which are organisms that eat the producers. The secondary consumer is organisms that eat the primary consumers. Sometimes the secondary consumers don't always have to eat the primary consumers and can also eat the producers or plants themselves. Different animals can be herbivores, which eats plants, omnivores, which eats both plants and animals, or carnivores, that eat other organisms. A food web is several food chains overlapping each other, with several organisms interacting with each other to survive. Sometimes the prey adapts to escape the predator, while the predator adapts to catch the prey. Life all around us is connected, and the interactions with one another are so complex. Depending on how far you look, whether it's looking at the molecular scale, individual scale, or the whole environment, everything is connected. Hey you, human, are you curious about the life